Hi, everybody. I am now guesting on Nikki's profile here on LinkedIn. We had a few technical issues. Hopefully, you will find us over on Nikki's profile. Going to have a word with LinkedIn because the scheduled event on my profile is not playing ball. So, Nikki, welcome to my LinkedIn live show on your profile.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
We will also have the recording going out as a podcast. I will edit out all of that technical wrangling that we just went through to get here. But Nikki, for my podcast listeners anyway, do you want to give them a little introduction to yourself and what you do?
Yes, thank you. So I'm Nikki Rausch. I am the CEO of Sales Maven, and it's an organization where I teach people how to have more strategic and effective conversations so that they're able to close more deals. So I teach the art of selling.
Yes. And
Yeah.
you are a multiple published author.
Yes, I have published 3 books. I have a podcast called Sales Maven, and I primarily work with women entrepreneurs, and I teach a 5-step process to a sales conversation. That's my signature framework. It's known as the Selling Staircase. My 3rd book actually is called The Selling Staircase, and it's all about that framework.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you about LinkedIn and sales, really because I'm part of your Sales Maven Society, and I have been for, oh my gosh, like must be over a couple of years now, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's a wonderful community where you help people with their sales questions, and actually you help them a lot with structure of wording around sales, which I actually find it quite fascinating to read other people's questions and your responses to them. I find it really interesting how you do that with people. Yeah, I really love it. And I thought, so on LinkedIn, I teach how to use LinkedIn for business. And what I love doing is actually all the features and the nitty gritty and the little bits and pieces that a lot of people maybe aren't aware of. I love diving into those and explaining those to people. And of course, a lot of people that come to, especially training workshops that I do, would be in sales and marketing roles. And I thought, well, who better than to bring on to LinkedIn to talk about sales on LinkedIn than Nikki Rausch, the sales maven. So I think if we start off, Nikki, where people's views of LinkedIn and sales, it tends to still be a bit negative. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do think there's still a lot of this approach to, somebody sends you a LinkedIn request, you accept it, and they immediately word vomit into your, message about how great they are, what's so interesting about their company, how their company can work with you, and why you should hire them. And you're, in any sales conversation, showing up with somebody who has no perspective, no idea who you are, and instantly going into sales mode is what I call skipping steps in the selling staircase. So when you go right from introduction to close and you miss all the steps in between, you really diminish rapport, and frankly, there's no like and trust at this place. So to sell to somebody like that so quickly without having established any type of rapport, relationship, or even check to see if they have any interest in what it is that you offer, it really tends to turn people off, right? It'll either annoy people or it'll just frankly make people angry. And so that's not how you earn somebody's business. You don't want to annoy and make them angry. You're never going to earn their business. So this idea of like shotgun approach to selling, of like, I'm just going to try to hit as many people as I can, word vomit all over them, move on to the next round of people to shotgun approach to sales. And realistically, from a salesperson's perspective, that is a ginormous waste of time.
Yeah.
You're wasting so much time and energy word vomiting on, 1,000 people instead of spending time building relationships with the few people that you need to actually earn the business and propel your sales forward, propel your business forward, start to scale your business. So yeah, it's a hot topic.
Yeah, it is. Interestingly, I hadn't talked to you about this before we came on the call, but yesterday I did a workshop with a multinational company, and one of the pushbacks I got was, well, Louise, we haven't got time for this. We haven't got time to go in and build relationships with people, because what I teach is how to, I say, it's much better to build relationships with 2 to 3 people than it is to go and try and connect with 100 people and hope that something lands. And the pushback was, well, we don't really have time to go into LinkedIn and build relationships. And the question I got was, could we use AI for this? And I immediately said, in my opinion, when you use AI and they were talking about using AI, maybe even in Messenger, you're looking at using a third-party software that's not approved by LinkedIn. And everything I teach is like, stay within the boundaries of the platform. But what are your thoughts around people saying, well, A, people saying, I haven't got time for this. And B, people saying, look, okay, we know we need to build relationships. Well, can we use a tool like AI to do it? Have you been asked about AI much, Nikki, in your field?
A little bit. And okay, so first of all, anybody who says I don't have time to build relationships, to me is saying I don't have time to sell. Isn't that your job? So if you think you're just gonna put up a website and you're just gonna have AI, again, word vomit, word dump into people's emails and into their DMs and things like that, and this is gonna actually earn you business, all you're doing is spending a ton of money and a ton of time and getting garbage leads.
Yeah.
And if you get garbage leads, you're not gonna get sales. So if you really wanna make sales, you have there has to be some kind of interest. There needs to be conversation. I know you've heard me say this 1,000 times. Sales isn't something that you do to other people. It's something you do with. It's a collaboration. So trying to convince people that they need whatever, product or service that you sell when they have no point of reference of where you're coming from or why you're coming at them isn't going to make people line up to give you money. So pulling this in with AI and I'm using AI in my business. I love it. I think it's super helpful for a lot of different things. But because one of the things that I use and specialize in, one of the things my clients value the most is the way that I can word things so that it lands really softly, so that it's interesting to the reader. AI does not have the ability yet to do that. And man, I have been trying. I have been playing with it. I've been tweaking. I've been trying to get it to learn how to stop saying and writing the really common language that's out there that frankly isn't interesting to a reader. And every time I ask it to write a script for me, it starts off with so I'm Nikki Rausch and my business is blah, blah, blah. Well, first of all, who cares? To the reader, they don't care who I am yet. They don't care what my business is. So starting off with talking about yourself in a message is so uninteresting to a reader. So if you think you're going to have an AI platform do all these reach outs for you, again, you're wasting time and money and you're alienating potential clients because they're never going to give you a second chance because they're never going to read anything else you write to them because the first thing you wrote, it was garbage.
That is such a good point. So case in point and real life example of this is people who reached out to me and have immediately launched into trying to sell me something that I wasn't looking for and didn't ask for. I just removed the connection straight away. So there is no second chance for them to actually show me that, they do know what they're doing and they have got a good quality service that I might be interested in one day. Because I've removed that connection straight off, you're right, they don't get a second chance. So it's a really good point. I love what you said as well, Nikki, about getting quality leads. And I think that's, it might be, so I know that I get pushback from people on how I teach LinkedIn, because it is, for me, it's about building relationships, getting quality relationships that lead to business. And some people who are in my field are all about moving fast and getting, you know, filling up the top of the funnel, nonsense.
Yeah.
And for me, it's more about a much better quality lead, which leads to a customer client who works with you, actually wants to stay with you for a much longer time as well.
Yeah.
So
Increasing lifetime value of your clients should be a focus of your business. And if you
yes,
start with, again, garbage leads, and maybe you convince somebody to buy one little thing from you, they
yeah,
don't have any relationship, they have no loyalty to you, so they're not gonna buy the next thing. They're just gonna, if that's how they buy, they're gonna buy from the next person who shows up in their DM or whatever and offers them some other little thing that's like a quick fix,
yeah,
right? So
yes,
you don't even want those types of clients, because
yeah,
you want to increase lifetime value of your clients. So that means you got to get clients in the door that have a good fit for what it is that you offer, and that you can continue to put things in front of them, offers in front of them that are going to serve them, that are going to be interesting to them. And this is really how you scale your business, unless you think, again, well, I'm just going to go out and try to get, 10,000 names, and I'm going to email all these people or DM all these people or send them LinkedIn requests or whatever it is that you're doing. And of that, you might get 2 interested leads. I mean, it's just such garbage. It's such a waste of time. What if you had, like, been strategic about who you were reaching out to, and instead of
yeah,
getting 2, like, mildly interested leads, you actually develop 10 interested leads of people
yes,
who have a real need or desire for what it is that you offer. And
yeah,
you turn those 10 people, 5 of them into buyers. And of those 5, you turn 3 of those into repeat buyers. And of those 3, you turn 2 more, twice they buy again, and then again, and then again, and then again. All that 10,000 garbage that you thought you were going to get, it was such a waste of time. And yet building these relationships and getting this repeat business actually moves your business forward. It scales your business with these long-term clients. Lifetime value is something I don't think people talk about enough.
I think that's really true. And also, I'm thinking, as you're telling me that, I'm thinking about people who bought from me before and then referred other people to me
That's
because
right.
of it as well, because
That's
they've
right.
had a good experience and then they've referred people to me. So I don't know if you've seen, you probably haven't, Nikki. There's an article out this week in Entrepreneur magazine with the editor-in-chief from LinkedIn, and he has said that they are changing. So it kind of falls in line exactly with what we're talking about today, which is so good. They're changing the algorithm to focus more on people sharing knowledge and advice. So they said there's 4 key areas that they want people. It's content. So we're going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn content and how to share content that helps you with your sales process. So they said, so the editor said, they want people to write or create content for a distinct audience. They would like people to focus on becoming known for their core subject area. And my video I did about this yesterday, I ended up talking about paddleboarding for some bizarre reason. And I said, like me coming on LinkedIn and talking about paddleboarding, which I have now done twice since recording this podcast. People aren't here to hear me talk about paddleboarding. They're here to hear me talk about LinkedIn. So that was my core subject matter example. I obviously want to have a paddleboard. The third one, that content that gets meaningful comments will be shared out to more people. And that's your conversation starting pieces of content. And then content that has perspective, which to me is the most woolly one, because you could write about anything. I could write about paddleboards and turn it into a piece about LinkedIn. Paddleboards again. So that's the most woolly one. But I thought that was really interesting that they're saying no more. They're not interested in people having viral posts on LinkedIn. They are much more interested in people building relationships and having conversations. So that's just come out this week. So I thought that was quite interesting, because it kind of falls in line with how you and I both run our businesses.
Yeah.
Meaningful conversations much more important than virality. Makes me think of life as opposed to viral posts. I'm not sure what the word is there, but anyway. So that brings me to my question. How can LinkedIn content management be integrated into a broader sales strategy? So, you know, Nikki, that we in our company, we create content for our clients. And my clients don't want us to write sales posts. That's not what they want. So they want to be seen as thought leaders. So how, in your experience, how can you create content for LinkedIn that works for LinkedIn, but also is part of your broader sales strategy?
Well, one of the things that's really important is that through your content, you are providing value and you're creating curiosity for people to want to know more, for
Yes.
people to want to take that next step. So creating curiosity is one of those things that oftentimes people don't really think about. And yet it's such an important piece in order to move people through the selling process. As a matter of fact, I mentioned earlier that I teach the selling staircase. That's my framework. Step 2 in the selling staircase is creating curiosity. So
Yes.
through your content, you should be thinking about, is this piquing any curiosity? Am I planting a seed that makes somebody go like, well, this was really good. And it mentioned this thing. And now I want to like jump and find out more about this other thing too. So if you're not making that connection and giving people a next step, giving them someplace else to go, something else to do, something more from you, how to get more from you, you're missing out on this whole idea of having an integrated strategy, right, on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. So it
Yes.
can't just be a one and done, like here's information dump, posted, done, never have to touch it again. People should want to engage with that content and they should want to take some kind of a next step with you. And you need to make sure that that next step is clearly stated, planted in that content.
So an example I'm thinking of here where this happened recently. So about a month ago, I was doing a LinkedIn Live and I was talking about something, and the example I gave was one of my clients' examples. And so afterwards, one of the guys who'd been watching the LinkedIn Live, who I wasn't aware of, we hadn't really communicated before, he connected with me and sent me a message and said, "Louise, really liked what you were saying there. I'd love to know more about how it is that you actually work with clients." So it's the perfect example, Nikki. And
Yes.
we got on a discovery call, and a proposal got sent out. So exactly
Ding,
what
ding,
you're saying.
ding. You knocked it out of the park. Good job.
Creating curiosity.
That's
Okay,
right.
so one of the big issues people have is when they connect with somebody on LinkedIn, what steps can you take from connecting with somebody who you want to sell to this person? You think that's my ideal client I work with. Let's pick a type of person. Let's say you want to be hired by HR managers working in financial services. Let's use that as our example. And you found these 5 HR managers in your hometown or home city, and you want to connect with them on LinkedIn and you want to get in front of them to sell, but you don't want to jump in there with a sales message. How would you approach that? How would you gracefully try and get a sales call from having made that connection?
Well, one of the ways that you approach it is you start by asking questions. And because when you ask questions, people are more likely to answer a question. And most of the time, when people are sending LinkedIn connections and they're sending messages through LinkedIn, they're talking at people. So they're making a lot of statements and they're not asking any questions. And if you're just making statements, people aren't going to want to get on a call with you because there's nothing interesting about you talking at somebody. So if you want to talk with them, you have to ask some questions. One of the questions should be something that would be relevant, and you can plant a seed. You actually can create curiosity through a question that you would ask. So if I'm talking to an HR manager and there's somebody I'd like to earn their business, I would maybe ask a question that has that's related to what it is that I do. So think about what you do. And ask a question that would let them go, yeah, we haven't really explored that particular area in our company yet. And then, or so ask them like, would you be willing to share? What are you guys currently doing in regards to X, Y, and Z? and then let them answer the question. And if they're like, well, this isn't really something that we have focused on, or it's not, we don't really have a strategy for it, then you could say, would you be interested in finding out, or would you be interested in talking about potential strategies that would be easy to implement, cost effective, blah, blah, blah. And in case you're interested in this, let's schedule a time to jump on a quick call. And then you give them times, this from me. You give them times, potential times of when to meet, and you ask them to pick a time. This is how you're going to move people from like back and forth, kind of email type conversation to actually getting onto a live conversation with people. You have to start with questions.
So an example for me in my business is that I get clients when I speak in front of rooms full of my ideal clients. So it makes sense for me to get more speaking opportunities in front of these people. So if recently I connected with somebody who is the head of a UK-wide organization. And so see what you think of this, Nikki. I said, we had actually discussed, I'd met her last year, and we had discussed what I did, and she was interested in what I did. But then I totally dropped the ball and forgot to get back in touch with her. And I said, oh, do you ever have guest experts coming in and talking to your organization? So maybe I didn't go softly enough, maybe. And I said, I'd be really interested in having a conversation about whether, that's something you might find interesting. So I probably skipped a step there, I'm thinking. Because I went straight in and just asked if that's something that they did.
Well, I think it's okay to ask, but I would want to reframe just a little bit of the way. So have you guys ever had anybody come and speak to your organization about the power of LinkedIn and what's possible for you on there? Yes or no? Like, so don't just jump right into because I could come and do it, right? Like, ask the question, see if they respond. They probably will. And then if they say, we haven't, that hasn't been something, but we do bring speakers in from time to time, then you could offer yourself up and you could say, this is my area of expertise. It's something that I do often with organizations. Would your organization benefit from a topic on LinkedIn? You could outline what your topic is, what the potential takeaways would be for the audience, and then ask, is that something you'd be interested in having me do?
Yes. I'm now, from your mini coaching on here today, I'm thinking what I did was probably word vomit on this person. You've now literally given me a little template, Nikki, because I'm going to get the transcript for this afterwards.
Okay, good. Yeah, so sometimes a little bit less is more. Yeah, it's you think sometimes I gotta tell them everything because I get one shot with the email. Well, if you're asking questions, you don't just have one shot typically, because people will sometimes answer the question. Now, make sure your question lands softly to the reader, because sometimes people send me a question and they're like, a question might be like, why do you think you're a thought leader? Well, that's kind of a little bit that's not a question that I'm going to take time to answer. But if somebody sends me a question and says, Nikki, have you ever thought about, using your book to do X, Y, and Z? I might actually spend some time and answer that question, because the thing about our brains is they're like Google. If you go to Google right now and ask it any question, it's going to try to give you an answer. And our brains are like the same thing. If you ask your brain a question, or somebody asks you a question, your brain wants to answer it. It's like Google. So even if they don't necessarily respond to you, they probably are answering the question in some way. So ask questions, and you don't need to ask 80 questions. Sometimes one or two is enough to start a conversation.
Yes, I need to. I know that about myself anyway. I sometimes just take a pause, let the other person speak. Yeah. Okay, so it's really a shame we don't have our event audience to ask us questions, but we've got another question here for you, Nikki.
Okay.
What role does storytelling play, not just in LinkedIn content management, but in all of your content management, whether it's your podcast or your blog or your LinkedIn content? And its impact on sales. So where do you see a place for telling stories as part of your guidance and when people are asking about how to be good at sales?
Storytelling plays a huge role in all areas of your sales. Storytelling, they say, is the language of the brain. Our brains love story. And the thing about story, when you can bring it into a conversation, is oftentimes like you could be telling a story about, I recently worked with a client, and one of their biggest struggle was what type of content should they be posting on LinkedIn? So we came up with a strategy for them that allowed for them to easily post content, so saved them time, and it spurred people to take that next step. And what they found is people actually were taking that next step and getting on consultation calls with them. And then from there, they were earning business, right? So I just tell this story. Now, the listener, when they hear this story, so whether I'm telling it live or if I'm telling a story in my content, in my, post that I'm making, or if I'm telling it on the podcast or whatever, the listener is hearing the story, but oftentimes they find themselves in the story. So who are
Right.
you in the story? I'm either the person that's like, oh, wouldn't it be so great to have new people signing up, taking action from the content I post on LinkedIn? Or would I be the person who's having to create the content? Like, they find themselves in the story. And even if you don't mention a particular character in the story, they will plant themselves there somewhere. And so when you do that, now their mind is starting to think about the story and how it relates to them. And if it does relate to them, they're much more likely to take a next step with you, because when you find yourself in story, you're like, I want that. Or, oh, that sounds like something I would benefit from. Or, gosh, that would be so amazing. What would it be like if my content actually generated leads?
Yeah, I love and it lands with the right person. That person then reaches out to you, and the people it doesn't land with, who don't see themselves in that story, they're not the person that you want to hire to work with you anyway, right?
Yeah. And they also say that there's studies out there that talk about stories actually are way more memorable to somebody than like facts and just data. So
Yes.
people are more inclined to remember a story. Now, it doesn't mean they'll remember all the details of the story. I use a lot of storytelling in my work, and oftentimes people will repeat back the story they think I told. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's the same story. Sometimes they've added all kinds of stuff to it that I was like, that was never in the story, but that's what their mind did. I love that they painted these very vibrant new characters or new point
Yes.
behind the story. And so let the story land. One of the things you don't need to do when you're telling a story is be like, and the moral of the story is, you don't need to do that. Or let the person decide what the story means to them.
Yes. You're a good storyteller on your podcast. I know that for sure.
Thank
And I
you.
think it makes it really interesting and intriguing to listen to, rather than just here's how to do sales. So yeah, I love that. I have another question for you, Nikki, and that is around case studies. So how can you incorporate? Well, first of all, how do you get clients involved in actually being part of a case study? Because I think that can be, we have clients, and for me to get their words on how they feel about how we work with them, obviously it's going to take their time to do that. And now, of course, we have lovely clients who are happy they said, yes, absolutely, Louise, happy for you to use us as a case study. But how can you incorporate case studies into your sales process, in your opinion?
So I think you can incorporate case studies in proposals that you're giving. I think you can incorporate case studies in conversation that you're having. I think you can incorporate case studies on your website. There's also places to use case studies. As a matter of fact, one of my VIP clients that I worked with in the last couple months, she had these case studies, and so she had shown them to me, and we went through them, and I gave her some suggestions on how to make them really interesting reads to the reader. It had to be really simple. We need to redefine kind of how it was laid out, and then take it like one step further. One of the things I really wanted for her to get was real specific on results, because people want to know, like, what are the results that happen, not just like this happened and then this happened. It was like, and the results are right. Like, what's the thing? And so she developed these really beautiful case studies. And she has a knack for graphic design, I will say. And so she has these really beautiful case studies, and now they're incorporated into like her deck. Like when she goes, she works with big company. She always says like small to medium sized companies. To me, they're bigger companies considering I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. But
yes,
these are, small to mid-size companies. And, these are big projects. These are projects that are, $30,000 to $200,000 projects. And to be able to incorporate these case studies into her slide deck when she goes and gives a presentation, they're beautiful, they're simple, they're easy to like get the point of them. And they're really powerful because they're mini stories.
Yeah. My head is just going with this now. As in, you're making me think. Sorry, that's really like
I love it.
That is so interesting. I have to talk to you about that offline.
Okay.
Nikki, so you just mentioned that you work with some VIP clients. How else can people work with you?
So I work with clients in a few ways. I have the Sales Maven Society. That's my group coaching program. That's the program that people get 2 live calls with me a month. They get to come on these calls and ask questions. As a matter of fact, I'm headed into one of those calls here shortly. And they also get access to my training center. They get access to me in a private group where they can post questions. So that's one way, the Sales Maven Society. I teach master classes. Those master classes are usually one topic a quarter that are deep dives in particular sales topics. Good. The next one, thank you, that's coming up in September is sales scripts for increasing influence. So talking about how to use language that is more influential and gets to the heart of the matter quicker. And then I do private client work, whether it be in a strategy session, like a one-off session where I'm helping somebody on a particular topic, or in a long-term coaching program where we're doing VIP or we're doing monthly coaching. So that's how I work with clients.
Well, Nikki, I can't recommend you highly enough. I think you're excellent at what you do, and also a very lovely person, which also helps a lot.
Thank you.
And thanks for sticking with me through our technical issues at the start today.
Well, I adore you. I think the world of you. I know the power of the work that you do, and people, I know having been a client, and you have worked with one of my team members and helped her so much with LinkedIn, and you are phenomenal at what you do. I recommend you all the time. You're often spoke of in the Sales Maven Society. You're highly regarded, a member in that group. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Everybody, I'll be back with my next LinkedIn Live probably towards the end of July, by which time I promise I will have my technical issues fixed. And thank you so much, Nikki, for being my guest today.
Thanks for having me.